The screen door creaked once. Sheriff Alden stepped in with mud still drying on his boots, rifle slung low, hat in hand. The room was too quiet. Not the kind of quiet that comes from peace, the kind that waits. She was already there, sitting straight in his wife's chair, bare feet, dirt up her shins, dress ripped across one shoulder, fabric fraying like an old memory, her hands folded on the table like she'd been raised for grace. She didn't look at him. She looked past him. Then, calm as a cold morning, she said, "Mama told me this is my home." He stared. His boot heel thudded once, then again, then silence. "You lost, girl." "No." "Who's your mama?" "You knew her." "I know a lot of women." "She knew you best when you were lying." He set the rifle down, slowly, kept his eyes on her. "You got a name?" She shook her head. "You gave it to me once." "That's so." She looked at the photograph on the far wall, the one no one ever touched. His wife. Her eyes soft, mouth half smiling like she'd heard a secret. "Don't stare at that," he said. "She used to sing at this table." Alden moved to the counter, poured a glass of water. His hand didn't shake, but it wanted to. "Are you hungry?" "No." "You been sitting here long?" "Long enough to see what you've been hiding." He turned, leaned against the sink. "A lot of folks try to stir up ghosts out here. Doesn't end well." She smiled, but it didn't touch her eyes. "Mama said ghosts don't come unless someone invites them." He walked toward her, sat across the table. The chair creaked under his weight. He noticed the tear in her dress again. The seam was pulled loose but stitched back by hand, crude but familiar. "You sew that yourself." "She taught me." Alden reached for his belt, unclipped the badge, set it on the table between them. "You come here for justice?" "No." "Then what?" She leaned forward, voice low. "Truth." He laughed once, dry. "That ain't worth much here." "It's worth a quilt and a grave." His eyes narrowed. "You speak in riddles, girl." "No." "You think I won't throw you out?" "I think you already did, years ago." The room tightened. Walls seemed closer. The floorboards seemed to remember footsteps not taken. He pushed back from the table. I walked to the front window. The yard was empty. No wagon, no horse, no footprints he could see. "How'd you get here?" "Walked." "From where?" "Past the trees, past the burned-out shed." His chest tightened. "That shed's been gone 15 years." She stood. I walked to the stove, put her hand near the cold iron, didn't touch it, just hovered there. She used to warm bread here. She'd leave the crust for the dog. He didn't speak. She used to hum when she was scared. He still didn't speak. She stopped humming the day you brought home the badge and the blood on your cuff. Alden's hand twitched. He turned, slowly. "You got 5 seconds to start making sense, or You don't remember me yet?" "No." "You held me once, the night she disappeared." "I don't hold strange girls." "You held me like I wasn't yours, then put me on the steps of the preacher's porch." His mouth stayed shut. "You left a note." "What note?" "Don't come back." That's all it said. He rubbed his temple. "I've seen a lot of liars, girl. You're good. I'll give you that. I'm not lying. You're not right either." She walked back to the table, picked up the badge. I turned it over, ran her finger along the edge. "She said you used to be kind." "Not anymore." "She said you had a limp from the fire." His legs stiffened like memory. "She said the fire wasn't an accident." He grabbed the badge from her hand, slapped it on the table. "You got 5 more seconds before I take you to town." "Take me." "I will, but you'll have to explain why the sheriff's wife made a quilt with my name in the center." He stopped breathing for a second. "What name?" She said it, and it cracked something open in his chest. He sat down again, slowly. "You're not supposed to exist." "I know." "You're not in the records." "I know." "I never signed anything." "I know." "Your mama, she saved you once. And you let them take her." He looked at the door, at the clock, on the floor, anywhere but her face. "I didn't know what they'd do." "You did." "I thought they'd send her away." "They did. But not far. Just deep." He ran a hand over his face. It felt old. "She died in silence." The girl nodded. "Now you get to live in it." The room pulsed quiet. Wind outside, nothing else. Alden didn't move. She sat again. Same chair, same stillness. "I'll stay here," she said. "For how long?" "Until the truth fills the house." He didn't answer. She folded her hands again. I looked at the table. I looked at the photograph, then closed her eyes. And the sheriff, for the first time in 20 years, couldn't find the strength to stand. The girl didn't move. She sat still in his wife's chair, hands folded, eyes low. The quiet clung to the walls like old dust. Sheriff Alden hadn't spoken in 10 minutes. Then he stood. I walked around her slowly, like she might vanish if he blinked. "You got that dress from her?" "She made it." "That's her thread?" She used to hum while she stitched. He bent down, eye level with the torn hem. The rip started at the knee, frayed and worn, but under it, something caught his eye. A different thread, darker, tighter, neater. He reached for it. "You gonna let me look?" She nodded once. He touched the lining. "Turn it open." His fingers stopped moving. He knew that stitching. "What is this?" "You tell me." He rubbed the edge. The inner panel was cut from something else, a quilt square, soft blue, worn with age, bordered in mustard yellow. The pattern was unmistakable. "Log cabin pattern," he muttered. She said every square meant something. His voice dropped. "Where'd she get the fabric?" "It was yours. Used to sit folded at the end of the bed." He sat back on his heels. "She took my wife's quilt." "No," the girl said. It was her quilt. His breath caught. "What's this name mean?" he asked, pointing to a faded thread inside the square. "You know it?" He read it anyway. Out loud. "Etta May." His throat closed. "That name doesn't belong to you." "It belongs to her," she said. He stood, backed away from the girl like she was fired. "You stitched this in." "She did, when I turned 7. I never heard that name in my house." "She used to whisper it after you fell asleep." "You making this up?" "No. You could have found that quilt in the trash, for all I know." "She kept it in a box with a lock. She said it wasn't ready to be buried." He looked at her. Long. Hard. "You're saying she had a daughter no one knew about?" "You knew." "No, You held her once. The same night the quilt got torn." His hands went to his hips. "That night's got nothing to do with you." "It has everything to do with me." He turned. I walked to the stove, stared at it like it might talk back. "She said the needle slipped," the girl said. "Blood got on the cloth. That's why she cut this piece out." Alden turned his head slightly. "I remember her crying that night," the girl said. She said, "He's not who I thought." His fist tightened on the stove rail. "You think you know me?" "I know enough." "You think I killed her?" "I think you watched her die." He spun, voice sharp. "You don't say that again." She said it hurt more that you stayed quiet than if you'd used the knife yourself. "Stop." She said the house turned cold when your badge got heavy. He slammed his fist into the wall. The sound echoed. A picture frame shifted on the nail. She didn't flinch. He stood there, breathing heavily. Then he walked back, bent down. "Hold the fabric again." "This square. This one came from her wedding dress," he whispered. "I know." "She told you that?" "She told me everything after she stopped talking to you." His hands shook, just a little. "She used to sit at the edge of the bed," the girl said, "stitching. Always in silence, always with a candle burning." He didn't speak. She said, "When a man loves silence more than truth, you have to write your story into cloth." He pulled away from the fabric. "You got any more pieces?" "I brought one." She reached into her pocket, pulled out a folded scrap, set it on the table. Alden picked it up, unfolded it. I looked down. This one had a sheriff's star stitched into the corner, tilted sideways. He closed his eyes. She knew. He whispered. The girl nodded. She knew the badge was the reason she had to disappear. "She knew you chose it." He set the square down. I looked at the girl again. "You came back here to finish this?" "I came back to show you what she left behind." He stepped back. One slow step, then I sat down. "Does she ever tell you why she stopped singing?" "She said you stopped listening." The air sat still between them. He looked at the old cupboard, still scratched from the fight that night, still missing a knob. "She bled on that floor," he said. "I know. I cleaned it up before morning." "She knew you would." He stared at the girl. "You really hers?" "I really am." He nodded once, then again, then whispered, "God help me." Sheriff Alden didn't sleep. He sat in his old armchair until morning bled through the window. The girl didn't move either, just watched him from across the room. Quiet, still, waiting. "You look like her," he muttered. "I know. But you talk like me." "I know that too." He blinked slowly. "Are you hungry now?" "No." "You sleep?" "No." "Why not?" "You were breathing like you were hiding." He rubbed his jaw. The stubble hurt his hand. "You always watch people this close." "Just the ones that lie." He looked up. "You calling me one?" "You already did that to yourself." He stood, walked past her to the wash basin, splashed water on his face. I looked in the mirror. She hadn't moved. "You see what you need?" he asked. She nodded. "Your eyes." "What about 'em?" "They're wrong." "You don't like the color?" "They're not hers." He turned. "They're his," she said. "Whose?" "My brother's." Alden froze. "He died young," she said. "Fell into the river." He stepped closer. "You never had a brother." "Are you sure about that?" He didn't answer. "I saw a photo once," she continued. "It was burned on the edge. A boy with dark eyes, holding a girl with a yellow ribbon." "Lots of boys hold girls." "Not with that stare, not with that same scar above the eyebrow." His hand went to his forehead, almost without thinking. She noticed. "What was his name?" she asked. He didn't speak. "Say it," she pressed. He swallowed. "Jude." She nodded. She never said it out loud, just stitched the letters in the hem of her pillowcase. "That doesn't mean he's yours. It means he mattered to both of us." He sat down again. "Jude ain't been spoken of in this house for 20 years. "Why?" "Because he's gone. So's she." They sat in silence. The clock ticked. "She said he drowned," the girl said. "But his body was never pulled out." "No." "She said your father said, 'Let the river keep what it takes.'" "He did." "You listened?" He nodded. "I was 17. My voice didn't carry weight then." "You still carry the weight now." His eyes dropped. "You think he jumped?" she asked. "I think he got tired." "Of what?" "Watching everything good disappear." She leaned forward. "He used to carve initials into the barn rail, didn't he?" Alden's face went pale. "I saw them last night," she said. "One set got scratched out." He looked away. "You remember who he was to you?" she asked. "My brother." "And to her?" A pause. "She loved him more than she loved you." The girl said. "She chose me." She settled. His voice rose. "That ain't true." She buried his letters under the floorboard. I read them. He stood. "You're lying. They still smell like river mud." His fist clenched. "You don't talk about him." She did. "Every night you leave the room." He paced now, back and forth, like a man with no way out. "She said your father made you take the badge, said he told you real men erase the past." He stopped pacing. "She said you never looked her in the eye again after Jude disappeared." His voice dropped. "I couldn't." "She said it was because you saw him in her." He nodded slowly. "I did." She watched him fall into himself. "She said you weren't cruel, just afraid." He sat back down. "I was a boy. She was a girl." He looked up. His eyes were red. "She never forgave me." "She wanted to. But the house kept his ghost louder than yours." He looked toward the hallway. "I used to hear his name on the floorboards," he whispered. "You still do?" He nodded. She stood. I walked to the cupboard, reached behind a stack of old dishes, pulled out a box. "I found this," she said. He didn't move. She opened the lid. Inside, a single button, faded green, thread still clinging to it. He exhaled like he'd been shot. "She said he wore it the day he disappeared. I told her to throw it away." She couldn't. He reached for it, touched the edge, pulled his hand back. "It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to all of us now." She closed the lid, set it on the table. "His eyes lived through you," she said. "That's why she kept you close, even when she stopped loving you." He didn't speak. "You buried her name. You buried his name." He nodded. "But you never buried the truth." The girl didn't speak for hours. She sat near the wood stove, legs tucked under, staring at a warped floorboard beneath the table. Sheriff Alden watched her without asking why. When she finally moved, it was slow, quiet. She pulled a spoon from her pocket. "That's yours?" he asked. "No." "Where'd you get it?" "From the drawer where she kept the jam." "She's been gone a long time." "Not from this floor." She knelt down. Placed the spoon between the cracks. He stood. "You're not digging in my house." She didn't answer, just pressed harder. The spoon scraped, dull metal against old wood. "Stop that," he said. She kept going. I said, "It's under here." "What is?" She said if anything ever happened, I'd find it where the birds sing. "You listenin' for songs now?" She paused. They creaked differently. Under her chair. Always did. He stepped closer. "You're tearing up my floor for a story." "I'm finishing hers." She chipped one board loose. The wood lifted with a dry snap. Dust rolled up. She reached inside. Alden moved fast. "Let me see it." She pulled her hand back, curled around something wrapped in yellowing muslin. She opened it slowly, unfolded the layers like it was bone. Inside, one rusted sewing needle, thick thread still looped through. She held it out. She said it pricked her the night you lied. He didn't take it. She said you brought the lie in your pocket. The needle caught her finger as she stitched through the truth. That needle could belong to anyone. She tied it with red thread. She said blood remembers. He leaned closer. I looked at the knot. His wife used to make knots like that. Loop twice. Pull back slowly. That doesn't prove anything. She bled on it. She bled lots of times. Not like that night. He sat down. The chair groaned. "You keep saying she said this, she said that. You expect me to believe she planned all this?" She didn't plan to die. His eyes went dark. She planned to be remembered. "You think this proves I killed her?" "I think you know who did." His breath got shallow. "You said she disappeared," the girl said. "She did." "You searched the creek." "I did." "You called the preacher." "I did." "You never told the governor." He looked up. "That was her sewing hand," she said, pointing at the needle. She couldn't finish the last square without it. He stared at the rusted metal, the thread brittle as ash. She said the last thing she touched before she fell was the cloth she stitched for him. "Who?" "The man you served." He shook his head. "You don't know what you're saying." She said you brought home his promises in your pocket, wrapped in whiskey and silence. She was scared of things that weren't real. She was scared of you. No. She wrote it on the back of the pantry wall. "There's nothing there." "There is now." He stood. I walked to the pantry. She followed. He ran his hand along. The wood. Nothing. Then she tapped twice. A hollow sound answered back. He reached for the knife on the counter, jammed it into the seam. The panel cracked open. Inside, carved in shaky letters, "If I'm gone, ask him why." He read it twice. Then again. "She left that for you." He turned. "She wanted you to carry it. She wanted me dead." "No." "She hated me. She waited for you." He dropped the knife. It hit the floor with a clatter. "I never touched her." "She never said you did." "Then what do you think I did?" "You let him in." He turned back to the wall. Read it one more time. "She was quiet the next day," he said. "Didn't eat. Didn't speak. I thought it was just her mood again. It was her goodbye." He touched the letters, traced the grain. She used to hum while she stitched. The needle would glide like water. She stopped humming. "Yeah." "After the fire." His throat tightened. "You remember the fire." She said the fire came from your silence, not from a match. She blamed me. She missed you. He looked at her, really looked, for the first time since she arrived. "You look just like her." "I know." He nodded. "What do I do with this?" he asked. "Don't bury it." He picked up the muslin. "Hold the needle like it might break." She never finished the quilt. She didn't have time. He turned back to the pantry. "Maybe it's time I finish it." She left a square blank. "For who?" "You." The girl laid the quilt square on the table like it was holy. Sheriff Alden didn't speak. His fingers still held the needle from the floorboard. The rust had stained his thumb. "She never sewed for beauty," the girl said. "She did it to keep her hands busy. Number she did it to speak." He stared at the blue and yellow square. The lines were jagged, corners frayed, but the stitching was exact. Too exact. "She said each square meant something," he asked. "Everyone." "Stories." "Secrets." He looked closer. The center of the square had a shape, blocked out in red thread, almost like a cross. "What's that?" "A grave." He tensed. "She stitched it after the barn fire." He looked up. She said something died in there. She never said that to me. She didn't need to. He ran his hand along the edge of the fabric. You think she buried someone? I think she buried the truth. He stared at the threads. This red knee, that's the same color she used on our wedding quilt. She saved the scraps. She always said waste was a sin. She said silence was worse. He sighed. Where's the rest? He asked. In my bag. She pulled it out from under the chair. A folded piece of cloth, worn, yellowed, edges curling like paper. She laid it out. 6 squares, stitched side by side. No pattern, no symmetry. Just pieces. This one, she said, pointing, was stitched the week after your brother drowned. He leaned in. That's river blue. She tore it from his shirt. The next square was darker, browns and blacks. A red line cut through the middle. She called this one split. Split what? Herself. He kept quiet. This one, she said, was made the week the governor visited. He blinked. How do you know? She stitched her initials with his. He looked closer. Tiny threadwork, barely visible. But there it was. His wife's initials. And his. Not his. J.D., he whispered. She said she couldn't breathe after that visit. He stepped back. She said you smelled of smoke and whiskey when you came home. Said your badge was dirtier than your boots. I didn't know. You did. He walked to the stove, put his hand on it, still cold. She made a new square every time you lied, she said. You think I meant to? No. But you did it anyway. He turned. This one, he pointed. What's that? A yellow house, a blue tree, black stitches in the corner. She called it the room. The room? The one she locked at night, the one you never entered after she stopped speaking. His mouth went dry. She kept the letters there, and the baby shoes. What baby shoes? She was pregnant once more. No. She lost it. He looked at the floor. She said grief stitched slower than hope. She said that? She wrote it under the quilt. He turned it over, words faint in pencil, fading under years of dust. He read it, then again. She never told me. You never asked. The girl pointed again. This one, she called it Barnes' grave. It was dark brown, burnt edges. In the middle, a black cross, stitched over red. He blinked. That's not just a grave. No. It's the place behind the barn. She nodded. There's nothing buried there. Not anymore. He stared at it. You sure? She told me to go there if I ever needed to remember. I thought she meant her. She meant him. He closed the quilt. I folded it slowly. You kept all this. She made me promise. She thought you'd come back here? She knew I would. Why? Because she said a house always calls back the one who left it unfinished. He nodded. She said you'd hear her again if you stopped defending silence. He sat. I looked at the folded cloth. What do I do with it now? Finish the square. He looked up. Which one? The one she left blank. He unfolded the last piece. A pale square. No color, no stitch, nothing. She said only the guilty get to name their square. He stared at it. I don't have a name. You do. He nodded. Then help. Me sew it, he said. Sheriff Alden heard the knock before the screen door squealed. 3 sharp taps. Familiar. Too familiar. He didn't stand. Just stared at the girl folding the quilt on the table. She didn't look up. The door creaked. Boots scraped the floorboards. Crane stepped inside, hat in hand, limp in the right leg like always. His badge was still pinned, though nobody had asked him to wear it in years. I heard something, he said. Alden didn't answer. Then Crane saw her. He froze. His eyes narrowed. His face lost its shape. The girl looked up. Deputy, she said. Crane's throat clicked. That you? It's me. You're not real. I was never meant to be. Crane turned to Alden. You let her in? She was already here. You kept her. She stayed. Crane's hands fidgeted with his hat. She's supposed to be gone. She came back. You buried this. I didn't bury her. Crane looked at the needle on the table, at the folded quilt, at the girl's face. You remember me? He asked her. You used to carry my shoes when the gravel got hot. He swallowed hard. I told you never to come back here. You did. I told your mama the same. She didn't listen. Crane stepped back. His limp caught on the rug. You shouldn't have come back. Why? Because the dead stay dead in this town. She's not dead. She disappeared. She was erased. Alden stood. Crane, you knew. Crane didn't answer. Did you know about the quilt? No. Did you know about the well? Crane's jaw tensed. You're going to stir things that don't want to stir. She's already stirring them. Crane turned back to the girl. What do you want? Truth. That doesn't end well for people like us. Then maybe it never should have started. Crane looked at the door, then at Alden. Tell her to go. No. You think the town's going to let this lie unravel? I think it already has. Crane's voice dropped. She was supposed to vanish. Quiet. She screamed. The girl's voice landed like ice. The crane froze. You heard her scream. She said, no. Yes. You were outside. I was by the barn. You came in. I didn't touch her. You pulled him off her. Crane's breath caught. She said your hands smelled like pipe smoke. She lied. She sewed it. Crane stepped back again. You think you're going to rewrite history with cloth and needles? She already did. Crane pointed to Alden. And you're going to let her take down the only name left standing? I let too much stand for too long. You don't know what they'll do. I know what I did. Crane dropped his hat. The sweat had soaked through. She said your limp came from running too late, the girl said. His face turned red. I told her to stop fighting. She said you said, be quiet or it'll be worse. I never... She remembered. Crane stepped closer. That wasn't my choice. It became yours when you stayed quiet. Alden sat back down. Crane turned to leave. She's gonna ruin you, he said. Then let her. Crane left without another word. The door banged shut behind him. Outside, his limp dragged through the dirt. The wind picked up. The girl folded the last square. You believe him? She asked. I believe his silence. The room stayed still for hours after. Neither spoke. The stove remained cold. When the sun dipped, the shadows in the corners deepened. Then came the first sound. A rock against the window. Sharp, then another. The girl didn't flinch. Alden stood, opened the door. Nothing but the yard. Empty. He walked out a few paces, stopped. I looked toward the tree line. Branches moved. You see him? She asked from inside. No. But you feel him? Yeah. She stood now. I walked to the doorway. He's scared, she said. He should be. They all should be. He nodded. They're not just warning us, she said. They're begging us to stop. Are you going to? No. The girl closed the door, and the quilt on the table shifted with the wind. The wind hadn't stopped since dark. It ran through the trees like something chasing its breath. The girl stepped outside barefoot, dress hanging loose around her knees. The spoon is still in her pocket. Alden followed, slow, rifle slung but untouched. His shadow stretched long behind her. She walked past the barn ruins, past the empty trough until the land dipped. The well sat like a wound. Stones cracked. The rope is long gone. She knelt beside it, palmed the edge like it might open on its own. Have you been out here before? Alden asked. She brought me here once. She never brought me. She said it stopped talking when you showed up. He stepped closer. It's dry. She said that too. You think she's down there? She said her voice might be. She leaned close to the opening, eyes shut, breathing slowly. Alden stood behind her, hands still. Then she whispered, Mama. The sound well held the sound, echoed soft. She used to sing here, she said. Sing what? You know. I don't. You dreamt it for years. He didn't speak. She began to hum. The sound was low, like something stitched together in pieces. He froze. That melody, he hadn't heard it since the night she vanished. You remember now? He nodded. She sang it when she was scared. She sang it the night before the barn burned. The girl turned. She said she heard everything. He moved beside her. I looked down. There was nothing. Just dark. She dropped a pebble. They waited. No sound. Dry as ash, he said. She nodded, but still deep. He looked at her. You think this place keeps her? I think it keeps what she can't carry. He squatted beside her, run a finger along the rim. This stone's newer. She said someone covered it once, with wood. I remember that. You pulled it off when you were drunk. I don't remember that. She does. He looked at her again. You talk like she's still here. She is. In the quilt. In the well. He leaned over the edge, Don't fall in, she said. He chuckled. Ain't much left of me to fall. You fell a long time ago. He stopped laughing. You still carry her voice? She asked. I buried it. She said burying it didn't work. The wind passed again, then a sound, faint, like thread pulling through cloth. He leaned forward. A hum. His breath caught. You hear that? She nodded. It's her, he whispered. No. Then what? It's you remembering. He stood quick, stumbled back. You all right? She never sang that to anyone but me. She sang it to me too, when I cried in the dark. He shook his head. I never heard that before. You never listened. He walked in a slow circle, eyes wide. She said if the song ever came back, it meant someone was finally ready to speak. He stopped. She says who? You. The well whined again, stones shifting. She said the truth echoes like a voice in water. He knelt again. I'm sorry. She knew. I let her go. You held the door. I should have locked it. You should have followed her out. He looked into the well. What's down there? She said a box. What kind of box? Wooden, carved. She buried it. She dropped it. When? The night before she screamed. He rubbed his face. I heard the scream. I know. I told myself it was the wind. She told herself it was over. He looked at her. You want me to climb down? No. You want to pull it up? She said it'll come when you're ready. He stared down again. She made a square for this place, the girl said. The well? It's blue, with one black circle. Empty? No. Then what's in it? Memory. He sat beside her, shoulder to shoulder. You blame me. I'm here. That ain't an answer. It's the only one you've earned. They sat for a long time. The wind softened. The sky darkened. She said one day the water would rise again, the girl whispered, and her voice. She said it would rise with it. The barn door groaned open. The hinges sounded worse than Alden remembered. He held the lantern low. The girl stepped in first. It smells like mold and smoke, she said. Most things do when they've held secrets too long. She moved straight to the hay pile. No hesitation, like she knew. Have you been out here before? He asked. She used to bring me when you were gone. She brought you to the barn. She said the house stopped listening. The girl dropped to her knees and pushed the hay back with both hands. Dust curled up around her. She coughed but kept going. What are you looking for? She said he left something here, said she never had the courage to burn it. The girl reached down, then stopped, her hand stilled in the hay. Found it, she whispered. She pulled up the cloth, old, stiff, a quilt, but not like the others. It was darker, heavier. She stood, letting it unfold slowly. Alden stepped forward. The light caught the thread. Symbols, stars, 2 initials in the center. GW. His stomach turned. That's the governor's quilt, he said. She made it for him, the girl replied. I thought she refused. She did, then she didn't. He stepped closer, touched the corner. The thread was maroon but thicker in one spot. That's blood, she said. Could be rusty. It's not. He looked at her. She said he pricked her with a pin, but it wasn't by accident. He didn't respond. She said he liked seeing pain stitched into things. Stop. She said you watched him leave that night, and you didn't stop him. I didn't know. She said you did. He stepped back. You think I let him? She didn't say he touched her. Then what? She said he made her feel small, like a servant. That quilt proves nothing. She kept it. That proves enough. He walked to the side of the barn, sat on a bale. She used to sing in here too, he muttered. She said it echoed better in the rafters. The girl held up the quilt. Do you see this pattern? I see greed. She called it the web. He nodded. That fits. She said every thread tied back to the man who never sewed a stitch in his life. He rubbed his hands. She said when you hang this quilt in daylight, the blood shines through. He looked at the lantern. Don't you dare. I have to. She held it up. The light hit the center. The maroon spread into something deeper. His breath caught. You see it now? I see it. She said it came from her thumb. She said that? She cried when she told me. He stood again. Give it here. She hesitated. You gonna burn it? Yes. She said you didn't have the right. I've earned it now. The girl stared at him, then handed it over. He took it to the back of the barn, dropped it in a rusted trough. He lit a match. Hold it low. The flame kissed the cloth. Smoke rose fast. "Don't. Watch," he said. She didn't turn. The quilt caught like it had been waiting. Red threads curled first, then the crest, then the initials. The smoke burned sweet and strange. When the last corner folded into ash, Alden crushed it down with his boot. "Done," he said. She nodded. They walked out, left the door ajar. That night, the wind came harder. At midnight, the glow started. Alden saw it through the window, orange flickers on the trees. He grabbed the lantern, ran. The girl followed. The barn was already half lit, flames crawling up the outside wall. "Someone's out there," she said. He raised the light. I saw no one, just fire. The door collapsed inward. "What was left inside?" she asked. "Nothing." "You sure?" "No." The girl stepped back. "They didn't want just the quilt gone. They want her gone." He nodded. Again. The flames crackled louder. "You think this ends it?" she asked. "No." "Then what?" "Something worse begins." They stood side by side, the barn burning, the smoke rising. Alden didn't move. The girl didn't blink. And, from somewhere beyond the trees, a match hit dirt. The fire still flickered in the distance, smoke low against the hills. Sheriff Alden didn't speak as he shut the front door behind them. The girl walked ahead. The house creaked. She stopped in the hallway. "Something's wrong." "With the barn?" "With the walls." He said nothing. She pressed her palm against the panel beside the pantry. "It's soft here. That wall's old." She said the house would give her away when it was ready. Alden stepped beside her. The wallpaper peeled at the edges. Moisture. Maybe worse. She picked at the seam with a fingernail. It gave. "Careful," he muttered. She pulled. Paper came off in strips. Underneath, bare wood. Then a crack. Then something shifted. A puff of dust fell from the top corner. "Something's behind it," she said. She grabbed the lantern. "Hold it high." Alden watched the wall like it might move again. Then a snap. The top plank bowed inward and gave. A small stack of envelopes spilled out. One photograph landed at the girl's feet. She picked it up. It showed a woman at the well, turned slightly, not smiling, dress pale, hand on her belly. "That's her," the girl said. "I've never seen that picture. It's your handwriting on the back." She turned it. Faint pencil, for when she grows old enough to ask. Alden stared. She bent down. I gathered the letters. Old paper, yellowed. None had names, just the same words at the top. "My girl." She looked at him. "You wrote these?" "I don't remember." "Then who did?" "I never sent them." "Didn't stop you from writing them." He sat down. The chair creaked. She opened one, read a few lines, then another. "You called her the light your badge never deserved." He said, "Nothing. You said you wanted to tell her the truth, but you were always 5 steps behind. I wrote those after the fire." She said you never cried. "I didn't. But you wrote." He nodded. "Didn't know where to send them. You had the preacher. I didn't want to shame her." "She already carried your shame." He looked down. She said silence weighed more than guilt. I believed her. She pulled another letter. The handwriting shook on this one. "I saw blood in the barn. I saw him leave. I didn't stop him. He looked away. She said you used to say her name in your sleep, but only when it rained. He wiped his hands on his pants. I thought these were gone." She kept them. She hid them. She was waiting. He stood, moved to the wall, touched the crack where the wood split. "She was 4 months pregnant in that picture," he whispered. "With me?" "Number someone else." "What happened to it?" "She lost it." She said she lost herself. He nodded. "Same day." She looked through the letters again. One had dried flowers folded in. "Sheriff," she said. He raised his eyes. "You wrote, 'If I can't undo what I watched, maybe I can name it.'" He turned, stepped into the kitchen. She followed. "I knew she'd never leave without saying goodbye," he said. "She said you already gave her one. She asked me to run with her. You said no?" I said not yet. The girl folded the last letter. "You lied to her." "I thought I had time." She said the truth rots when you keep it in the wood. The wind shifted outside. The house groaned. "She wrote back once," the girl said. "She did. She never sent it." "Where is it?" She pulled a small envelope from her pocket. She left it with the quilt. He opened it with shaking hands. "Read silently." I folded it again. What did it say? She forgave me. The girl nodded. But she didn't forget, he added. No. The photograph still sat on the floor. He picked it up. She looks tired, he said. She was tired of being good. She tried to be kind. She was kind. That was the problem. He looked at her. You have her eyes, he said. I have your silence too. The house moaned again. The back door unlatched itself. She said the house would start to speak when the letters saw light again. He turned. What's it saying now? She's not done yet. The candle burned low on the table, wax sliding down in thin lines. The girl sat hunched over cloth, needle in hand, thread pulled steady through layers. Her fingers moved like she'd done it 1,000 times. Alden watched from the doorway. Is that a new square? Yes. What's it say? You'll see. He stepped closer. She didn't look up. You used to stitch like that when you were nervous. She said it was the only way to keep her hands from shaking. He pulled out the chair across from her, sat slow. That's my old badge, he said. It was in the drawer beside the letters. You're putting it in the quilt? She nodded. Why? Because it belonged to her story. Are you stitching it upright? No. He stared. She said a badge only has weight if it leans the right way. You're turning it upside down? Yes. You know what that means? I know exactly what it means. He looked at the square, dark fabric, rough on the edges. The badge sat heavy in the center. Thread crossed through it at tight angles, anchored, reversed. She trusted that badge, he said. She bled for it. He reached for the candle, shifted it closer. She said you used to pin it to your heart. He nodded. She said after a while it looked more like armor than truth. I didn't know how to take it off. She said you never tried. His eyes stayed on the needle. It moved slowly now, like she was taking care not to tear the cloth. You stitch like her. She taught me to keep my mouth shut when my hands could speak. He leaned back. What's the square called? Justice. He blinked. She said justice never came from men who wrote rules, only from those who remembered the ones broken by them. You think she wanted me punished? I think she wanted to be named. I tried. Number you wrote letters. You wrote guilt. That's not the same. He swallowed. She said if you ever looked her in the eye again, you'd have to earn it. I am. Not yet. She tied the thread off. Hold the square up. The candlelight caught the silver of the badge. It gleamed wrong, bent, shamed. You're going to show that to people? He asked. She said a quilt was never for hiding. That badge once meant something. It still does, just not the way you hoped. He stood, moved around the table. I looked closer. The stitch ran right through the center of the star. You stabbed it, he said. She said it didn't bleed the first time. He nodded. She said the second time it did, it was too late. He stepped back. How many squares total? 12. How many left? 1. She placed the square beside the others, laid them out across the table. Each one's a piece of her, she said. Where's mine? She pointed to a blank square at the far edge. That's yours. No thread. No color. Why not? You haven't chosen yet. He nodded. She said you'd know what it was when you stopped looking at yourself. He turned, faced the dark window. His reflection stared back. Hollow eyes, badge-shaped shadow on his chest. She said, men who forget the women behind them lose their way. He turned back. And what about the ones who remember too late? She said they sew. She handed him the needle. He held it, cold, thin. He pulled the chair closer, sat down. What color thread? He asked. Red. For blood? For truth. He looped it through. His hands shook. She didn't help. He pressed it to the cloth, took the first stitch. You know what you're sewing? She asked. Her name. He pulled it through. And mine, he added. The thread held tight. Will it stay? She nodded. It will if you don't lie to it. He kept stitching, slow, careful. When he was done, she took the square. Hold it up. His name, crooked. Her name, steady. A line between. That's the last one, she said. He looked at the quilt laid out on the table. A barn, a well, a grave, a child, a badge. Every truth they tried to bury, stitched into something warm. She said quilts keep more than bodies warm. He nodded. She said they keep stories from freezing over. He touched the badge again. It didn't feel heavy anymore. The quilt lay finished across the table. Candlelight flickered against the seams. Sheriff Alden stood behind his chair, arms crossed, jaw tight. The girl didn't speak. She sat still, eyes on the last stitched square. He reached for the edge of the cloth, pulled it toward him. "I don't want this in my house." She looked up. "It already is." "You think this—" He tapped the quilt. "Fixes anything? It names things. You stitched a lie. I stitched her truth." His hands trembled. "You don't get to decide what's true." She already did. He shoved the chair back. The legs scraped hard against the floor. "She said you looked away," the girl said. His breath caught. "She said you stood by the porch steps and didn't stop them." "I didn't know." "You knew." "I didn't see." "You didn't need to see." "You heard her scream." He slammed both fists on the table. The candle shook. The wood cracked beneath his weight. "I didn't touch her." "Number, you just left the door open." The table groaned. One leg buckled slightly. "She said it was quieter after you turned around." He stared at the candle. "She said they came in through the kitchen." "I wasn't there." "You were." He shook his head. "You saw the rope," she said. He looked down. "You saw the bruises after." "She told me it was her fault." "She lied." "I believed her." "She wanted you to choose." "I did." "Number, you let the governor choose for you." He stepped back. "He said if I spoke, she'd disappear." "She disappeared anyway." The room pulsed. Wind outside, walls creaking. "You let them take her," the girl said again, quieter. The candle sputtered. "I thought she'd come back." "She waited. She told me to run." "But you stayed." "I was scared." She was alone. He gripped the back of the chair. "You don't know what it was like then." "She said fear doesn't excuse betrayal." "She was going to leave me." "She begged you to go with her." He slammed the chair into the wall. Wood splintered. The table shook again. "She said your silence was louder than their fists." "She wasn't supposed to die." "She didn't. Not then." He turned. "She died when you stopped saying her name." The table split at the edge. A crack ran straight through the square with the upside-down badge. He stared at it. "She said the truth doesn't just break people," the girl whispered. "It breaks houses. It breaks tables." He stepped forward. "I carried her name in my chest. You buried it under a badge." "I wrote her letters. You never sent them." "I couldn't." "You still can't." The candle burned low. "She forgave you," the girl said. He looked up. "But she never forgot you watched." The table creaked again. He moved to the window. The night stared back. "She said if you ever said it out loud, the house would crack." He turned. "Say what?" "What you saw." He shook his head. "Say it." His voice dropped. "I saw them take her." Louder. "I saw them tie her wrists." Again. "I saw the governor's boots on my floor." The crack in the table widened. "I saw Crane hold her down." The candle flickered. "I saw her mouth bleeding." The table snapped. A piece of wood dropped. The quilt slipped halfway to the floor. The girl stood, stepped beside it. I picked it up. "Now you can stitch it again," she said. He dropped to the chair. The one that didn't break. She folded the cloth, pressed it to her chest. "She said you had one last stitch left." "What is it?" "Her name, said with no more lies around it." He looked at the quilt, at the gap in the square. He whispered, "May." "No." He looked up. "Say the whole thing." He closed his eyes. "Etta May Collins," he said. The walls didn't move. The wind died. The floor was still. The quilt, for the first time, stopped breathing. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Sheriff Alden sat at the table, head resting in his hands. The broken half still leaned to the side, cracked where the badge square had torn through. The candle burned out. Night, long gone. He hadn't moved since she walked to the back room. Didn't know when he fell asleep. Didn't know she'd left. But the silence told him. He stood slow. Legs are stiff. The hallway was empty. The chair by the stove is cold. Quilt gone. He opened the front door, and there it was, hung on the front rail, folded carefully, measured, centered, like it belonged there. He stepped out barefoot, dew soaked through his socks. The wind barely moved. He reached for the quilt. It was warm. She had just placed it. He held it in his hands. It unfolded slowly, each square facing up. 12. The barn. The well. A cross. A black boot. A red stitch over pale blue. Her name, his name, the badge, still upside down. And in the last square, the blank one, a new detail, a stitched hand reaching out, another letting go. No faces, just thread. He pressed it to his chest. The door creaked behind him. Nothing there. He turned back to the porch, sat on the step, quilt across his knees. She was gone, but not forgotten. He waited all morning, made coffee, left it steaming on the table. She didn't come back. By noon, he searched the edge of the woods, called once. No answer. By evening, he sat on the rail beside the quilt again, then walked back inside. He hung it on the wall where the photograph used to be, took the photo down, set it face down in a drawer. That night, he poured himself a drink, didn't sip it, just stared at the quilt, and wept. The next morning, he found a scrap tucked beneath the rail, torn from the same cloth as the dress she'd worn, a single line stitched in red. Truth doesn't leave. It just waits to be named. He folded it into his pocket, didn't speak the rest of the day. I didn't need to. A week passed. Crane never returned. The governor's men didn't ride in. No fire, no storm, just quiet. He walked the trail behind the barn, checked the well, still dry, but the stones didn't feel empty anymore. She'd taken something with her, left something behind. He couldn't tell which meant more. On the seventh day, the preacher knocked. "You all right?" Alden nodded. "Someone said your barn burned." "It did." "You all right?" "I'm starting to be." The preacher saw the quilt. His eyes paused on the badge. "Did she do that?" "Yes." "She's bold. She's gone." The preacher nodded. "Where'd she go?" "Where the story needed her next." The preacher looked again. "You gonna leave that hanging?" "Yes." "Are you afraid of what it says?" "No." "Why not?" "Because it says everything I never did." The preacher didn't ask anything else, just left. At dusk, Alden stood on the porch. I watched the wind move the cloth. Each square seemed to shift with light. The barn square caught fire again. The well whispered. The badge turned. The thread held. He spoke out loud, voice quiet. "I see you now." Then louder. "I remember." Then softer. "I'm sorry." No one answered, but the wind paused, and the quilt didn't move, just held still, like it was listening.